The chapter we finished was all about cells and what they're made of and how things get inside of them and out of them. Now we're going to talk about how cells grow and how they divide and reproduce. So DNA is basically the tool that is used to produce proteins. That information is used, like I said, also for cell growth. Not only for proteins, but for cell growth. As a cell gets bigger, then the demands on that information grow as well. You have to produce more and more proteins to do what needs to happen within that larger space. If cells were to never divide, there would be a certain sort of information crisis. If we use a growing town as an example, the town library has a limited number of books. Same number of books as the town grows are in greater demand, which limits access. A growing cell, similarly, makes greater demands on its genetic library. If the cell gets too big, then there's basically not enough information to go around. So that's why cells divide. What also has to happen is food, oxygen, and water, the good stuff, come in through the cell membrane, and waste products come out the same way. The rate depends on the surface area of the cell. The rate at which all of these things are used up and produced depends on the cell's volume, how much is inside that cell. We're going to take a closer look at the ratio of surface area to volume to understand another reason why cells have to divide. It's not only about the amount of information for the space, but it's literally getting things in and out that need to be gotten in and out of the cell. If we imagine that the cell is cube-shaped, you can take a look at this table. Here's surface area, here's volume, and here's the ratio. So if a cell is 1 centimeter on a side, surface area is length times width times, there's 6 sides to a cube. So that's 6. Length times width times height is 1. So surface area to volume is 6 to 1. So in other words, there's way more space surrounding the cell for nutrients and good stuff to get in and waste products to get out. But as you see, as we move this way and the cell gets bigger, let's take a look at surface area to volume ratio here. If the cell is 3 centimeters on a side, surface area to volume ratio decreases. It's only 2 to 1. So in other words, the cell gets bigger. Keep in mind, understand this. The cell gets bigger, the surface area gets bigger, the volume gets bigger, but the ratio goes down. It's the ratio that goes down. Goes from 6 to 1 down to 2 to 1. As the cell gets bigger, it becomes more crowded. It gets difficult to get things across town, goods in and out. A cell that continues to grow would experience traffic problems. If it got too large, the good stuff would be more difficult to get in and waste products out. So before a cell grows too large, it divides into new daughter cells in a process called cell division. Really important, before that, DNA has to be copied so that there's a copy of DNA in each what we call daughter cells. Cell division reduces the cell volume, and as you saw in the slide with the table, a smaller volume increases that ratio of surface area to volume for each daughter cell. Just this plain old cell division, this copy mechanism, if you will, is how growth and repair happen. This is called asexual reproduction. So in multicellular organisms, cell division leads to growth and repair. In single-celled organisms, it's a form of reproduction. Bacterial cells basically do this in order to reproduce. There's a single parent producing an offspring, and the offspring will be genetically identical to the mother cell. It's simple, efficient, and effective. It produces a large number of offspring. Prokaryotes and eukaryotes that are single-celled, and then some multicellular organisms as well, reproduce asexually. Bacteria produced by binary fission. Kalanchoe plants form what we call plantlets, and hydras, water animals, reproduce by budding. Sexual reproduction involves the fusion of two gametes, two sex cells, that fuse into a single cell before the offspring can grow. The offspring get genetic information from both parents. Most animals and plants, and many single-celled organisms, reproduce sexually. This increases the variety of offspring. We have varied offspring here. Instead of identical offspring to the parents, they're varied, which creates an increased chance for survival. So if we compare these two, asexual reproduction produces genetically identical offspring. It's a quick process, and it produces a large number of offspring. Sexual reproduction produces genetically diverse offspring. And the really, really important thing, like I just said, that diversity helps ensure the survival of the species when the environment changes. If you have multiple members of a species that can adapt to multiple different conditions, that's going to increase chance for survival if you get a change in the environment.